Good afternoon and welcome to today's EUROMED Migration Talk. Today we are very happy to have with us a leading expert in population and migration studies from Cairo, Egypt, Ayman Zohry. Thank you for being with us today. Professor, you have quite some experience in the field, and we're really looking forward to hearing your thoughts about the migration narrative in the Mediterranean. So if we can just dive in, let's think about 2015 when the so-called migration crisis hit the region. And since then, we see how the migration narrative in the Mediterranean has been strongly polarized. Now, do you think that the COVID-19 pandemic has actually reinforced this polarization? And if so, how has it done so?
Well, the migration narratives in the Mediterranean is always polarized. So it's not actually related to the what's called migration crisis in 2015. I remember that migration crisis actually was not a migration crisis. Migration is not a crisis. It is political crisis in Syria, not a migration crisis. And also, it's not migration crisis for everyone. It is been regarded from the European side as a migration crisis. But actually from the side of Syria, for instance, from the side of refugees themselves, from the side of migrants themselves, it's a heaven, not crisis, just to escape the threats in Syria. So it is going back to the COVID-19, well, actually, from my point of view, this is not to undermine the impact of COVID-19 on all aspects of our lives, but I don't see a strong impact of COVID-19 on the migration narrative simply because it is still the same setting, same conditions here and there. Here and there means in the two shores of the Mediterranean. So nothing new about it. What happened it's not related to the narratives, it's related to the human mobility, just the whole movement. So COVID-19, what did it made to migration? Actually, it made like when you pause a video, when you halt something. So it just paused it for a while, and now it is getting back to normal or abnormal from the other side of the Mediterranean.
You do raise some very good points, and so you said that the narrative hasn't changed that much. However, we can see that during the pandemic, the role of key migrant workers in very fundamental sectors of the economy of the whole region has been very relevant and highly reported about. Now, do you think that reporting on these efforts, so basically the role played by migrant key workers, has actually contributed to nurturing a less polarized debate on migration, or the effects are not there yet?
Well, actually, there's always a lag between action and effect. Everyone realizes this, but they think that it's good. It's good just to show that the health workers especially in France and Italy, come from different nationalities, especially the North Africa, but from other side, this is a brain drain. So this means that Europe got benefit of the people who were living in the other region or in the other shore of the Mediterranean. This means also that migration is good, and we do not need, for us as a southern people, we do not need to prove that migration is good because we know that migration is good. So the propaganda about this actually may change the narrative in the other side, at your side, not at our side, because we know that migration is good. So and also the same thing, we just forget issues. The same thing happened when France won the World Cup. And you remember the picture of the French team and relating them to their origin. It is just been taken as something very nice to just exchange in Facebook or in Twitter. But this doesn't change the reality that migration is good to the two of us, despite the different narratives and the different points of view.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, You do talk about a specific image, the image of when France won the World Cup. Unfortunately, as an Italian, I only have bad memories about recent football endeavors. But talking about the example you made earlier about, putting a stop on a video, and then the video at a certain point, when you hit play again, things will go back to normal. So, I mean, if we look at this pandemic, that it put the world on a hold, and
Yes.
Europe especially. Now the consequences seem to be a lot harsher in the American continent. However, so you said that for you it's just to hit the stop button for a moment, but
Yeah.
do you think there will actually be some long-term consequences that we still cannot see today? Or do you think that everything will just go back to normal, and even people in your field, researchers in population and migration studies, will have to reconsider how migration is perceived today? What do you think? Do you think there will be short-term changes, long-term changes? What are your predictions on that?
Okay, well, so the example I gave, or the for simplification. So the whole thing, the movie, and then everything goes back as normal. It's just for simplification, but actually nothing will be normal after COVID-19, or after what's happening now in the political arena, and also in the health arena, simply because there are consequences of this halt. There are consequences of this halt in the near future, and also in the way the two shores of the Mediterranean look at migration. Simply because, first of all, the importance of selectivity of migration. Now Europe will be more selective in the issues of migration. Well, for instance, will allow more physician doctors to come, simply because they felt the need of more physician doctors because of the pandemic. Other thing that they staying at home for more than 100 days, like myself and many people in the world, showed the importance of technology. And to the extent that we're doing this by using technology, instead of you send someone from your office in Cairo to interview me physically or something like that. So this will change the realities of migration as well, simply because this will increase the outsourcing. It means I don't need Ayman Zohry to come to Rome in an office to manage a project on migration in the Mediterranean. I can hire him while he's at home in Cairo. So this is very clear now at the time of COVID-19, that you do not need to move people, you can move jobs. So this will affect the migration narratives in the not only in the Mediterranean region, in the whole world.
Let's try to take a step back, and I would like you to help us a little more with a more academic concept. Now, in light of your studies, can you help us better understand the relationship between migration as an overall phenomenon, population, and public health? I mean, how are these three elements intertwined when we look at migration in the Mediterranean?
Yes. So the relation between migration and population is very clear, simply because usually, or theoretically speaking, people move from the countries or the regions with demographic surplus, like in the African continent, to regions with demographic shortage or demographic deficit. But this is theoretically speaking, but it is not as simple as that. This doesn't mean that the surplus of population of Africa will move to fulfill or to fill in the gap in Europe with the demographic deficit, simply because there are constraints between this. There is the selectivity of migration, and there are also the solutions that Europe can do for their demographic deficit. So it is not us to tell Europeans that take the surplus because you have deficit, because in many cases they don't match, simply because Europe need a specific quality, specific technical and specific skills that may not be available in the countries of the surplus. This is one. Two, with respect to public health, I'm not talking about public health as people fit to work, but about the epidemics, pandemics, and the transfer of diseases. So the one important medium of transfer of not only diseases, but also habits, health habits and culture of health culture is migration, simply because migrant, when he or she comes from a specific country to another country, he or she doesn't come just only as a human or a labor force. They come, or he or she comes with culture, makeup, and also epidemic makeup, or pandemic makeup, or cultural health culture makeup. So, this means that even migration doesn't only distribute humans over the globe, but also distribute the incidences of the prevalence of diseases and prevalence of cultural habits related to disease and health.
I see. So there seems to be also an important issue with dialogue, and try to make the parties understand, all the parties involved, from the countries that are, let's say, in surplus, and then whose population is moving towards countries that are in deficit. So dialogue seems always to be kind of a debatable issue, because on one side you have the facts, and then on the other side you have the emotions of the people that need to work and to basically apply integration initiatives and policies. Now, when we talk about dialogue, a lot of focus in discussing the migration narratives is on the media. However, I would like to check with you, what can be the role of academia in promoting a better dialogue to rebalance the migration narrative? So what is your suggestion to promote dialogue within this scope, within the academic world, to rebalance the migration narrative? I mean, is it possible that academics engage in a way that affect the way migration is perceived in the region?
Yes, of course. First of all, there's a good relation between academics in the two shores of the Mediterranean. I myself have very good relations with peer colleagues in migration research in Europe and in France, Italy, Greece, and all countries of Europe. So the relation is really good at the academic level. The role of academics, actually, we produce knowledge. So even, when the media people, when the politicians talk about migration, their talks are based on what we produce, because we produce the basic knowledge that decisions of politicians or even the media campaigns can be based on. So this is the very important role of academics.
I see. Now, talking about dialogues, as an Egyptian professor, I would like to mention to you something that has been studied in a British university, which is the so-called Salah Effect. Of course, I'm discussing about a prominent footballer, Mohamed Salah, who is probably one of the strongest footballer in the world today, probably one of the strongest Egyptian footballer ever. There are some studies that indicate the following. So in certain areas of the city of Liverpool and outside Liverpool, where a stronghold of Liverpool supporters live, the attitudes of people living in these communities towards Islam has dramatically improved together with Salah's outstanding performance. Now, and this is the so-called Salah Effect. You can check it in Stanford magazine. So there is actually...
I read about it.
It's Alexandra Ziegel, a postdoctoral scholar at Stanford's Immigration Policy Lab. So they actually... So there is tangible research that shows how, let's call them, these champions of migration are actually making an impact in integration policy and in rebalancing the migration narrative. I think there is even a a chant by Liverpool supporters that says something along the line, and if Salah scores one more goal, I will be a Muslim as well. Of course, there is a bit of, a bit of play, of wordplay, and
Yeah.
usually that community is always quite, they like humor. Now, do you think that champions of migrations or, highlighting these exceptional individuals can actually help rebalance the narrative in receiving countries and across the region? What are your thoughts on this?
Of course, first I'm proud that Salah is from my country. And actually the Salah effect is very important in balancing the narrative and also in accepting the other in Europe. But how many Salah we need? This is the issue. So Salah is an exception. Salah is just an icon that can be used by media, but we need many Salahs.
Yeah, that's a good point. And talent is a scarce good.
Of course.
Professor, just to conclude, this is something that I have asked all other previous people we interviewed.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge dilemma, not only on migration, but for especially communication practitioners,
Yeah.
the so-called facts versus emotion debate, or facts versus emotion dichotomy.
Yeah.
Now, some people say that the narrative, let's say the migration narrative, influences policymaking, and some other actually say that policymaking influences the narrative. Now, to conclude, what are your thoughts on that? So where is the chicken and where is the egg?
Actually, it's very difficult to say where is the chicken and where is the egg, but I think there's another element is missing from this equation, which is the economy. The debate on migration is settled by the need for the economy. It's not settled by politicians, by the way. I always say this. So the debate actually is not between the acceptance of people and the left and right and versus the politics. It is between politics and the economy. So what determines actually who comes and who stay behind the borders is the economy, not the policy. The determinant of migration actually is the economy, not anything else. Or you can say that 90% of the decisions about migration are made by the need of the economy rather than the will of the politicians or their desires or their speeches just to attract people to re-elect them.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
We'll be in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.